Hello and welcome to the Racers HQ podcast. I'm your host, Matt Murphy, and joining me on the line tonight, we've got our dedicated co-host, Pat Mulry. Hi, Pat.
Matt, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well. And our special guest, Mark Hutchison. Mark, hello, how are you?
Howdy, how's everything?
Good. Well, guys, we ain't dead, we just smell funny. We're back for the summer recap with our special guest, Mark Hutchison. Been wanting to do this show for a while, so yeah, glad to have everybody on the show. Doing any libations tonight, Pat? Anything happening there?
Yeah, tonight is an Old Bones rye whiskey that I am fond of. So we're enjoying that as the juice of the evening. How about yourself?
Old Bones being the brand and not the base product of the whiskey, I'm assuming.
It's at least the brand.
Okay, at least the brand.
I can't speak to the way they manufacture it. It doesn't taste especially bony, but it is delicious. It's I suspect it's MGP juice and like just some barrels that they had sitting around longer than maybe they expected, and so then it's a whiskey company actually in Indianapolis that produces this. So
nice. Sounds like a lovely dram.
It is. And you?
I'm sipping on Polar Seltzer. I had a few gin and sodas at the Andretti track right before this. So.
Oh, that's right. You were karting just before this, weren't you?
I was, yeah, with Spencer Elliott, former team member and
friend of the pod,
of the show, and then a young man named Mark Humphreys, which I apologize, Mark. I sent you into the wall, but he's a local autocrosser and Corvette guy and stuff. And he came up to me later on. He's like, "What was that?" I was like, "Oh, was that you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. That was the wall. Sorry, Mark."
It's just a warm up for the pod, sir.
Get him next time.
That's right.
But I do need to watch it with the aggression at the kart track. All right. So, Mr. Hutchison,
if Todd Wyatt is listening, that's good advice for him too.
Oh yeah,
he's a little RG and a little bargy when he's on the kart track.
Yeah. Mark, have you had a chance to visit the new Andretti track yet in Oklahoma City?
No, I have not. I'm actually going to a 10-year-old's birthday party on Saturday. My nephew, yep, and they invited me out, so I'll be going to that on Saturday to we'll see, beat up on some kids maybe. I don't know. We'll put them in the wall.
So. Definitely get into the adult race so you can get a decent pace, but yeah, the kid karts are pretty slow. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
well, that'll be fun.
I think that's the plan.
I think you'll like it. It's pretty impressive. It's basically Mario Kart Rainbow Road. Well, fun stuff. Let's do garage talk, Pat. It's been a long time.
Been a minute.
But let's summarize. I mean, we had a little oopsie with the E36 the last time we ran it, and we're recovering from that kind of thing.
Yep. So I'm in the process of assembling what was the spare motor, and it's now going to be the race motor. So I'm literally right in the middle of that process. And so last weekend, Eric Strawn, our dedicated teammate, came down from OKC Friday night and Saturday. We spent Saturday, getting everything off the car to do it. The exhaust, the drive shaft, all the things. And got the engine pulled by mid-afternoon, and it was just, one of the things that I maybe didn't appreciate as much before, but I really appreciated when Eric was down, was like how just having someone else, like having two people working on the car at the same time, there's like a multiplier. Yeah, there's a multiplier effect to it, right? Like you don't get as distracted. You don't get pulled away. You can kind of focus on a little bit more. And when one of you kind of like starts to sag, the other one can kind of pick it up, and like the energy's just better. So, I was really expecting it was going to take us like all weekend to get that engine out. And we had it out by about, I think we started at like I don't know, 8:30 probably on Saturday morning, and we had it, and we broke for lunch, and we had the engine out by 2 or 2:30.
Nice.
Yeah. So now I don't even know how many times we've swapped an engine on an E36 chassis at this point. So, it wasn't like we were having to really figure out anything new. It was more like the things that we forgot. Like at one point, and this is entirely on me. Eric picked it up, but on that car, the way we do it is we just drop the whole front subframe with the engine still attached to it because it's just the easiest way to do it. And so we had everything ready to go. We had figured out, I think, all of the all the electrics that needed to be removed and the fluids and everything, and thought we were ready to go. And then Eric's sitting there and he's like, Pat, don't we need to remove the brake calipers? I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty important. You're not going to want to drop the subframe with those still attached. And then he's
that'd be like a $200 error, sure.
Yeah. And then he says, so how about the subframe bolts? Should we remove those? I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be pretty hard for us to drop the subframe if it's still bolted to the chassis, right? And then he's like, how about those lollipop bolts? Those should probably come out too. And I'm like, yeah, what happened at lunch? Like my brain went completely out the window. I'm thinking we're ready to go. And then after we did that, we dropped it. It came out pretty clean. We actually remembered this time to remove the slave cylinder from the transmission while we were down there pulling the rest of the stuff. It seems like that's always the one we always forget. And then you tear the clutch line, in half as you're trying to pull it. You're like, why is this engine not coming out? And you're, hulking it out. And then it's like, oh yeah, well, you got a braided steel line that's holding it in that now is leaking too, but not broken. So, but after all that, we got it out, and so we hopped to the pool for a little bit, and then Eric got cleaned up and headed home. By the way, his new Miata, really sweet.
Yeah, that looks like a cherry ride.
No, it's beautiful, and he got a steal of a deal on that thing. It's really sweet. And so then we got out of the pool and he took a shower and headed home for dinner. And I expected he was going to be here on Saturday night. So it was great to get him back home quickly. And then on Sunday, I had to buy another engine stand. I thought I had a second one, but I didn't. Had to buy one and assemble it and then get the transmission, clutch split off of that and mount up the old engine to an engine stand so we can start swapping the all the accessory drive stuff off of that and onto the new engine. So hopefully we'll get that back in the car. Like it's just a matter of me assembling the engine and then getting it ready to go back in.
Yes. So targeting November, targeting November racing
for the race. Yeah, I'm hoping I'll get the engine in late September. Ben is scheduled to come down the weekend of October 4th to help figure out a couple of electronic things. You remember how the push to talk for the radio on the steering wheel wasn't working right? There's a couple just a little electrics things. And so I think he's going to come fly in and help me figure those out. Since he's the one who designed and built that electric system, I thought it'd just be, well, I didn't think it'll be a lot easier for him to figure it out than for me to try and go back and figure it out. So,
that's awfully cool of him. Yeah, no, very cool.
Yeah, but still hoping. Aiming to get it back in November. It may slow me down a little bit. I'm going to race at Road America, the Lemons race up there.
Oh, nice.
With Mard. First weekend in September. Sure. The weekend after Labor Day.
Nice.
With Marty Lumpkin and Jerry Ringle. In actually Brian's old E36 with the Mustang engine in it.
Really?
Yeah. Jerry picked that up.
I wonder if I drove that RX-7 with that same Mustang engine in it.
That's a really interesting question. I haven't seen it. It wouldn't surprise me if it's that same engine though. Knowing Brian. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. That's fun. It seems like a really cool track.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Someday, Matt Murphy. Someday.
We'll get there. Goals. I'm trying to be a silly NASA racer. Well, Well, I also bunged up my car pretty bad. I had hit that wall.
Mhm.
Mark was there. He saw me, and
He hit that wall with an assist.
yeah, I hit the
Yeah.
car, then hit the wall. Both things. Narwhal car. It was great. So since then, to your recommendation, Pat, this car was not going anywhere anytime soon. It was pretty screwed up. So I bought a 10 ton like porta jack
Yep.
and stuffed it between the frame rails and bent it back into place with force and prayers, and um, bought a new subframe, and everything is bolted up now. So like, car doesn't start. But everything is connected right now. We're at fuel pump won't start. So I mean, minor things, but I mean, I think we're going to make the October third race, something like that, the next NASA race. So Crescent.
Oh,
Yep.
awesome.
So, which indicates as some of the reasons that I didn't sign up for Houston is I'm just like mad dash to try to make this work. But
Yeah,
um,
totally.
and then just wanted to also give a shout out. Lots of other things have happened as well, but give a shout out to Roland. He's also going through the same thing. Like he went to a comma race like a week after I did, and got T-boned by a young man in a Corvette, and painful racing stuff, right? So it's been one of those years, but he's also got his act back together and was back on track this last weekend, and has lots of opinions about the track surface at Hallett. But anyway, Pat, you're a construction engineer,
I'm not an
or no,
engineer.
you're a construction lawyer.
I am a construction lawyer.
Kind of like an engineer.
No, it's not. I get to criticize engineers and talk with engineers, but I'm not an engineer.
Yeah. Mark, have you driven on the new surface at Hallett? Like, you've driven this year, right?
Yeah, twice this year.
Yeah.
I like it. I don't have too much experience at Hallett. I don't think I drove it. I think I drove it 15 years ago on obviously the old one, but I don't. It's been so long, I don't know the difference.
Yeah.
But
I think when we're pushing
so.
it, yeah, when we're pushing it the limit on slicks, it seems to really just fall apart. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, so exciting stuff.
I wonder if it'll get better with a good like winter cure cycle. Let it cool down all the way and then warm back up, and see if that kind of gels all of the blacktop together, because it seems like that's kind of what it is, that the mix is a little loose.
Gotcha. I told
just judging from the photos of all the asphalt that comes home on the cars.
Yeah. Construction engineer, everybody.
Not an engineer.
All right. Well,
the only reason I'm really correcting you is the past 3 days I've been working on a case where there was somebody who was practicing in Texas. There's a thing called the Engineering Practice Act, and I've been working on a case where somebody was possibly committing engineering without actually being an engineer.
Oh, okay. That's the thing. You can't just say you're an engineer.
No, you have to be
just go from analyst to engineer.
Well, you could for like a race car. Right. Sure. But if you're going to be a professional engineer designing, structures and buildings and that sort of thing, there's a very rigorous education process that you have to go through in order to be able to put the official PE initials next to your name, have a stamp that goes on things. Yeah. And if you don't do that and you do the engineering, you have violated the Engineering Practices Act, which is a negligent act of itself.
This has been Compliance Pod on Racers HQ. Like and subscribe, rate and review. I love it. All right, we're going to move on. Mark, you have had a long and interesting career in the motorsports industry and experience, and we'd like to hear from you. We also have lots of questions about LS swapped German cars, so maybe give us a little rundown. I don't know if you started at a motorsports company or not, but give us a little rundown of the career and a couple of the cars you've been working on, and we'll bug you along the way.
No, yeah, so I was into like Miatas, and I had an Evo at one time. I did a lot of autocrosses, and then after college, I didn't really even think about getting into motorsports. I was really just into, putting stupid stuff on cars to make them go way too fast. And then I left the company I was at, and I started at Deechworks, just doing their marketing. Chris Mills, my cousin, shout out Chris. He was already there doing sales, and then eventually moved into R&D. But no, they never really had a marketing guy. They did some in-house. They had like an outsourced guy that would do some of their design work, and I was a graphic designer by trade. So I just kind of went in there and just kind of revamped their brand a little bit, helped out on their trade show side of things, did some video, and then just did a lot of traveling and sponsorships. I mean, they had some drifting sponsors and some like road racing sponsors, but nothing too crazy. And we really expanded that. I mean, if you look at any of the YouTubers, the younger YouTubers, the drifting, mostly drifting guys, Adam LZ, Taylor Ray, TJ Hunt, all those guys, I brought them on to Deechworks, and they've been running them for 10 plus years now.
Nice.
Super successful background. And at the time I had like a 335i, and I had done like a little JB4 juice box on it just to make some power, but never really was into actual like drifting or drag racing or anything like that. And then started watching Sloppy Mechanics YouTube channel. They put LSs and everything, junkyard stuff. So then I just started doing that. A buddy of mine, Drew, had an E30 that we picked up out of Texas, and it didn't have a motor in it or anything. It was just a shell, and we went and bought a LS3 crate motor from Chevy Performance and slapped that thing in, and it was fantastic. But we didn't know anything about putting cars together, so we just kind of piecemealed it together, and had this swap kit and kind of made our own fuel system with Deechworks stuff, and just kind of made it work. Had the Bob, BMW Bob, he put the cage in it, and we had all these plans to go to Pikes Peak and do all this stuff, and then we realized it's hard to just go race places. It's not just, just fill out a paperwork. So that thing eventually just is now collecting dust. That guy, he had a family and all that stuff. So, but then I was like, you know what, I want to do this myself now that I know what not to do. So I bought an E46, super cheap. And
before we move on from the E30, do you have a weight balance issue with that, with putting an LS in the front of an E30?
It really wasn't that front heavy. I mean, this was an all aluminum LS3.
Okay.
And it was, there was nothing in the car, but it was probably a little nose heavy. The swap kit we used, it was a nicer one, better than ones I use now. It's a Sickie is the brand, and it's pretty much a turnkey. You get drive shaft, mounts, exhaust manifolds, the whole everything, and it fits really well. And it pushes it pretty far back to the firewall. Obviously, it's only four cylinders long instead of 6, so it didn't go as far forward, but it was probably pretty heavy. We didn't engineer much on that. We mostly just slapped it in, and it did really good burnouts, but we didn't really take it to the track.
Yeah.
What diff did you run? Did you have to swap a diff on that?
Bone stock E30 diff. We never broke an axle in that car, at least.
Wow.
But we didn't. If you do the burnout just right, you won't break an axle or a diff. But the E30 ones, I feel like are pretty strong. I got some buddies that are running small block Chevys and small block Fords and those, and they go through axles, not so many diffs.
Yeah.
But yeah, the E46 was really the game changer. That chassis is just so much better. The rear end, all that kind of stuff. The modern suspension. And I literally just ordered a 5.3 off of LKQ, showed up to my house, and we put a big cam in it, and then we had it in A for about like a month, and then I was like, okay, now I didn't want to do too much to it because I knew I was going to turbocharge it. So we put a 76 millimeter on it, and it made like 650 to the wheels. It had a turbo 400. It was made to drag race. So at the time I was really into drag racing. That was kind of the popular thing, especially in Oklahoma. There wasn't much drifting at the time. This was 10 plus years ago. Thunder Valley was accessible, and of course highways are always accessible. But yeah, it was just like a really basic 5.3 with a 76 millimeter on it, big injectors, E85, like 15 pounds of boost, made almost 700 to a automatic turbo 400.
I have a question. How did you build your own like header like that sounds like a very complex like header situation or exhaust manifold, whatever we want to call it, to get to that single giant turbo?
So yeah, kinda. So the trick is you just take truck manifolds, which are relatively shorty, I'm gonna air quote shorty headers, and if you just LSs are the same on each side, so you can just flip the manifolds and they point forward instead of back. So then you just make a pretty much a U that goes up from one side to the other, join them into a single 76, and it stuck out of the hood just a little bit. The turbo did, and it looked really cool. And then I wasn't gonna try to figure out how to. I had just learned how to weld, so like I wasn't gonna try to do a full exhaust, so I just ran it out the hood.
Nice. That's smart.
And it, relatively quiet. Turbos are the best mufflers that you can buy. Make power, and they quiet everything down pretty good.
Did you do anything? So I remember seeing a picture of this car. You at some point you had some pretty beefy tires on the back. Did you do anything specific on the suspension? I always wonder. I mean, clearly you want good power for drag racing, but did you try to tune in that suspension for, I don't know, whatever matters with drag racing?
No. So I bought BC coilovers.
Okay.
That's kind of my go-to suspension, especially for drifting. But I wanted to lower it a little bit. I wanted it to work on some of the squat, because the E46s squat really hard, especially with a lot of power. So I just put this off-the-shelf BC coilovers, single ways, nothing crazy. But yeah, it did have a huge tire on the back. I had a Mickey Thompson ET Street on the back. It was a 275 15, and E46s and E36s you can put a 15-inch on the back, which is awesome, and especially for drag racing, because you want sidewall. You want a ton of sidewall. That also helped with the differential and the axle. I never broke an axle in that car, and it made 700 horsepower, and I launched it a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep, it was a fun car.
So for the less drag inclined listeners, can you explain why you need a lot of sidewall on your rear tire?
So yeah, like when you launch the car, there's a lot of stuff starting to move all of a sudden. So you want that tire to give a little bit, so that it will not only bite, because like when you initiate that launch, the tire will, especially when you run 6 pounds to 10 pounds of tire pressure, that tire will kind of absorb that shock a little bit, but also at the same time, it's pushing that tire down, which helps with grip. And with an IRS rear end, where it has camber change based on the height of the vehicle, you kind of want to make sure that you don't just flash it. And you do have to run positive camber in the back to be able to get to zero camber when you launch. Yeah. So it's an odd way to do it for sure. I learned that actually from drifting, not from drag racing. Most of the drag racers just run a static camber. But if you put a little positive camber into the rear end, it'll even out once you start moving.
Nice.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that sounds smart. Yeah, I mean, we geek out about our suspension. I'm sure there's geeky stuff about drag racing suspension. That's fascinating.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially a solid rear, like 4 links. I can't. That's a level of engineering I can't even think about. But yeah, I mean, if you get a solid rear axle with drag racing, you can do all kinds of tuning. And it's actually really fascinating if you watch a really fast, like 6-second solid rear end car. The rear end actually raises up, so you'll see it as it starts. It's static. And then as the car accelerates, how they tune that 4-link, it's actually pushing the tires down, and in return, the body is actually raising. So it's a really, really cool way to do it. It's kind of different than IRS, which you want it to squat, where solid rear, you actually want it to push the wheels down and not the body to bring that leverage on the tires.
This is far beyond our capabilities to understand, Mark. So
Right.
good job.
Yep.
So cool. So you drag race that thing for a while, and then you so tell me about that transition. So you got another cool V8 swapped German car after that, or like what happened?
No, that E46 lasted me about 4 years. Same engine,
Okay.
same 5.3. So, I did upgrade the turbo to it was like an 80 something millimeter turbo.
Okay.
Made the same amount of power, but it just made it more efficient up top. I was running out of steam up top. Couldn't make any more boost. So we just went to a bigger turbo, and I was kind of over drag racing. So I was like, I'm gonna go put a manual transmission in it because the worst problem with that car is I never drove it, because with the Turbo 400, if you don't know what a Turbo 400 transmission, it's a 3-speed. So, and there's no overdrive. So third gear is 1-to-1.
Mhm.
So if you're on the highway, 60 miles an hour was 3,500 RPMs. So with a V8 turbo, you're screaming down the highway, and also overheating the whole way to Thunder Valley down in Norman, because so I would have to go like 55 miles an hour the whole time just to be able to keep the car cool. And it just really wasn't fun. And it was also like, exhaust out the hood. It shot flames all the time. And if you rolled into boost, it was either going 60 or like it would go 60 or 140, which is what the rev limiter was. There was no in between, because the second that thing spooled, you were gone. And it just wasn't exciting just to drive around. So
It sounds exciting, but maybe not the way you want it to be exciting.
Yeah, it was exciting, like real quick, and then you're like, okay, now I'm just cruising at 3,500, and it's screaming all the time. But yeah, I got kind of bored of it, mostly because I wasn't driving it, and the transmission was just not exciting. So I put a T56 manual Magnum in it, and then went and blew the motor up like within a week, which was really funny. And then I just took everything out of the car. Yeah, I was like, all right, I'm done. So I sold the car to some guy down in Texas, with all the motor mounts and the wiring and everything, just with no motor or transmission. And I was like, I'll figure something else out. And then I bought a 350Z to start drifting from a buddy in Florida. Sight unseen, flew out to Florida. I was like, I really want to start drifting. I want to start with something basic. So my buddy was like, hey, I know a guy selling one. And me and my wife, fiance at the time, flew out there and drove it, a lowered 350Z with no mufflers, all the way from Orlando, Florida to Oklahoma City. And that
You better put a ring on that.
Yeah, no, no, I found the right one. We got married back in February, and
that's the current one. That's the current one. No,
yeah,
she's a winner. Yeah, no,
yeah.
she's
Motorsports
legacy.
Yeah, she
right.
her dad raced back in the 80s and 90s, and our honeymoon was at the Daytona 500. It was awesome. So
yeah,
that's great.
She's a good one. Keep her.
Yeah, for sure.
Her dad was sponsored by Peugeot or something weird.
Yeah, he raced for Peugeot factory, so they just would ship him. He would
really.
Yeah, they would ship him a car on a semi truck, and then he had a shop up in Colorado Springs that would maintain it, and then he would just ship it to Road Atlanta or Willow Springs or anywhere, and he would race for him.
I had no idea that Peugeot had a factory supported race program in the United States at any point in our lives.
This was,
and by our lives, I mean like since 1776.
Yeah, it was SCCA, so it wasn't IMSA or anything like that. But he did do some IMSA racing as well.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Yep.
Okay, so you had
all right. So 350Z comes up here.
350Z.
Yeah, so I bought 350Z. It was the most reliable drift car I've ever owned, and still the most reliable one, oddly enough. 350Zs, they make 250 horsepower on a good day. You run a 265. There's a recipe for it. You get a handbrake, a seat, and a steering wheel, and then you weld the diff. And there's a million different tires you can run for drifting, but a 265, 35, 18, and they'll last for 30 plus laps, and that's usually maybe a day and a half of drifting. And it's just, you do 2 laps, you come in, cool the tires off, go out, do 2 more laps, come in, do the.
What kind of Huawei branded tires are you running, by the way? Like,
No, I mean, you're running. I mean, there are people that run the cheaper tires. Before COVID, tires were really affordable. You could get them for $50 to $100 a piece. Now you're looking at $150 to $200 a tire with the same brand. But no, I mean, I could talk for hours and hours about tire technology and how far it's come with drifting, because you see drifting and you're like, okay, you want as much, no grip as possible, but it's actually complete opposite. You want as sticky of a tire as you can get. The Formula Drift Pros, they run NTO1s or NTO5s, and they're like 315s, but they're making 1,300 horsepower. So and there's a huge difference. I run really really 500 tread wear tires that don't have any grip to them, and you just kind of sit there, mid corner, you just kind of sit, and then you'll eventually accelerate to the next corner and you'll just kind of sit there in the corner. But if you get a 200 tread wear, 300 tread wear, Kendas are like the best affordable drift tire right now. There's a giant difference in grip and forward bite. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
And I had a blast. We're not to that car yet, but I did have a blast going drifting with you. But anyway, okay, I like this. I feel like your current car or your E36 is this way too, but there's a formula is what you're getting at, on these drift cars. Did you not need to buy knuckles for the E36 or anything? Is it just have good steering from the get?
No. So the Z came pretty much already built that way. I didn't really do anything to it, but the E36 is, yes, there's a recipe you get, depending on the brands and whoever you like, but there's affordable brands that you can get that are just kind of bolt-on knuckle adapters that just move the tie rod closer to the center line that gives you more angle, or you can buy a whole lower arm, and that's what I did. So the company's SLR, they make road race stuff as well. Fantastic brand. They support drifting like crazy. They make everything on the front end of BMWs that you can think of, and it's relatively simple. It's literally just a lower arm that's wider that gives you more, a wider stance on the front so that you can actually physically turn the tire more, so you don't hit the frame rails. And then there's usually an adapter that goes on to the knuckle that brings that tie rod closer, so you do have more angle, and helps with steering and all that stuff. And then there's all kinds of Ackerman adjustments. I don't know anything about suspension. They just say do this and it does that, and do that and it does this, and I just bolt it on. It's really simple though, and it helps. And it's E36 is, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, is one of the best drift cars, because it's very simple on the front end, and you buy a kit and weld the diff, and you're off the races. And you can do it with stock horsepower. You can do it with 1,000 horsepower. It drives very similar, just a lot faster.
So you got into drifting with 350Z, and you were doing that with the local drifting. What team is that called here locally? Yeah,
there's a couple series. Full Lock Drift is the kind of the main series that has a points thing, and they are a Formula Drift feeder league. So if you win the series, you get a pro spec, which is their Pro 2 license is what it used to be called, and then the next level is the pro level. And there's a ton of guys that still race in Formula Drift that came from Full Lock. Robert Thorne, you guys might know Robert. He came from Full Lock 2 or 3 years ago. He won and then moved on to Pro 2, and now he's in Pro 1. I don't know if he's doing it this year, but he's up there. Yep. And then there's just a couple other groups that do it. There's a team called Drift Riot. They do a bunch of events where they just kind of rent out OMC down in Norman or Hallett. They're actually going to Hallett this weekend. Full Lock is. So if this is going live by Saturday, you can
we can make it happen.
You can go out to Hallett and see some drifters tandem and stuff. But there's tracks popping up everywhere. There's one down in just south Oklahoma near the Texas border called Cam's Acres, and it is a drift specific track, and it is fantastic. It's a fantastic place.
Nice. So you got into that, and then how did you transition? Did you transition from the Nissan to the E36 that you're in now?
So yeah, the Z was a good car, it was very reliable, but it was, I don't know if you ever heard of a non-mufflered VQ out of a
Yeah, good
350Z,
point.
but it's the most it sounds horrible. And it was really difficult to drive just normal. Like, I mean, it was so loud. So I was just never driving it. And a buddy of mine, Jack Davis, who we actually sponsored when we worked at Beachworks, he's in Formula Drift right now. He drove a 4-door E36. And I'm like, and I rode it with him a couple times. I was like, I got to get one of these. So he actually had a shell, or a running shell, I would say, for sale. It was in pretty bad condition. Yeah.
Hold on. I'm sorry. You seem pretty confident about, like, I got to get one of these. What was it about the E46 sedan versus a E36?
Sorry, it was an E36 4-door.
Yeah. Like, I got to have one of these. Like, what?
Well, they looked really cool, first of all. I really like E36s when you do it right. And just the proven chassis. There's a lot of people in the grassroots that will do an E36 over an E46, even though they have very similar suspension. The engine bays fit an LS really well. And you don't have any of the modern anything. There's nothing modern in that car, and it's just so easy to make good. So that's why, and yeah, the E36 just looks good too.
Yeah, okay. We just wanted to hear you talk nice about the car that Pat has. So.
Oh yeah, no, they're great.
So to take off of that, I was talking with another friend of the show the other day who races a E36 sedan in NASA, who's probably going to have to re-engine that car after a blown motor up at Ozarks.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so he's thinking he may have to upgrade the chassis too, because that car's been racing for 15 years, at least, maybe a little bit longer than that, and it's amazing the longevity of the E36 chassis in racing. That chassis came, debuted in what, 1990? We're looking at 35-year-old chassis, some of them. It went from 90 to 98, and still, like, there's an awful lot of people who are like, yeah, if you're going to go bare bones all the way back, start with an E36. It's a known quantity, and we can all, you can do it, and it does all the things you want it to do, and it's more lightweight than a 46 or a 92, and just do that. And I think it's absolutely staggering to think that, you would never do. What other car is like that?
Miatas.
Porsches.
Yeah, maybe Porsches. If you can find them, and still, if you can find them, right? I mean, because they were a little bit more limited. Yeah, that's true with Miatas, but I mean,
it's very much the German Miata. Yeah,
it's rare company. I mean, you wouldn't be like, oh yeah, really the best Mustang chassis. Well, that's the Fox body. Like, you wouldn't be. You get laughed out of town.
Yeah. Anyway, praise E36. Okay, carry on, Mark. So you liked it, and you went and got one.
Yeah. That's pretty much what it was. My buddy Jack up in Tulsa had a nice little boneyard of E36s that he'd been picking and pulling for his own race program, and I was like, hey man, if you're not using that one, it already had, like, the subframe was already reinforced, it had a steering wheel already put on it, it had a seat in it, so it was just like kind of just ready, but it had been sitting for a long time. It still had the M50 or whatever came in those things, but I pretty much just drove it from Tulsa and then ripped the motor out that next weekend, and I already had a lieu of parts coming for it to put the LS in it. And the LS that I have in it currently is the same LS that I had in the orange car. So when that thing blew up, and it just spun like every bearing in it, like every bearing, like every bearing. So I just put a new crank in it and ordered Summit Racing pistons and rods and slapped it in and put a bigger cam in it because I knew I'd be in A, and it's been fantastic ever since. I mean, I haven't had one issue with it. But yeah, just ordered a swap kit, CX Racing. It's the kind of go-to cheap version, cheap mount kit. It comes with the engine mounts, transmission mounts, exhaust, headers, everything. And they have everything in stock always. It's not anything made in the United States. It's very very poorly, I would say poorly welded, but it kind of puts the engine straight. You're cockeyed a little too. That's kind of always the thing. You're always kind of to the left a little bit, but it still works. I mean, everything lines up when you put it, put the transmission on and everything. So there's some other brands that are great. You got Vorschlag down in Dallas with Terry Fair and all those guys, but they put a lot of work into those things, and it usually takes a while. So I usually just order CX Racing. I've done that for both of my cars, and it's been great. But yeah,
What's the formula from
That's what it is, Matt.
From start to back? Say what now?
China Express CX.
Oh yeah, I got it. Yeah, no, I get that. That's fine. I'm curious though, so it's not just the motor though. So you've got some hillbilly transmission, and then that mounts via a drive shaft to. Is it also an American diff, or is this some sort of what's in the back there?
Bone stock. So,
okay. So
bone stock rear end with stock axles, stock everything. Now the go-to is to go find an M3 E36 M3 rear end, because those are usually good for about 1,000 horsepower when you're drifting. But the drift tax, if you've ever heard of the drift tax, it has just been killing the E36 lately. So it went from, you could find a rear end for $500, an ether from axle or from hub to hub for $500. Now it's 1,000, 1,500 if you can find one, because obviously the M3 is no longer there if it has the diff on the ground. So it's truly hard to find. But what you do is you just go find as many 325 IS or I diffs laying around, and you just weld them all up. And I have 2 of them in my garage as backups. I haven't blown one yet. Axles though, I've blown up a ton of axles. And one at the track when you were there, Matt. Remember that ended my day a little early, but I can usually swap one out in about 15 minutes typically if I can get the damn thing to fit. But axles are the weak point on the rear end especially for drifting. If you clutch kick, especially with the LS. Now, if you have the M50 in it or an S50, you're good. I mean, it will break eventually depending on the situation, but most of the time, if I clutch kick in that car, it will break an axle.
What actually fails? Is it like the CV component?
The CV. Yep, yeah, the CV. Okay. I've seen some people snap them at the middle, but it's typically just the CV, and they will wear out over time. So usually every 2 or 3 drift events, I would swap out an axle, just because you'd be able to move the wheel this much because the CV is starting to fail, and that's usually just the sign that it's gone. But yeah, the CV fails because they're just small. Yeah. There are a couple solutions where you can get a 488 in the back of it. It's very pricey. And then you get these 1,000+ horsepower axles from Drive Shaft Shop, or Wisefab is another brand that makes really beefy axles, but they use Porsche 930 innards. I think that's the go-to. It's 488 to Porsche 930. I think it uses a similar CV, but they're massive. I mean, they're huge, so you just can't break them. And that's what all the FD guys drive. They use Winter quick changes or 488s in the back.
Nice.
Yeah.
A font of knowledge. So then you've got this awesome drift car that does a great job at being a drift car, and then you decided to go road racing?
Yeah, so drifting, there's a level of progression there, and it's usually grassroots, having fun with your friends, and then you get into tandeming, which is door to door drifting, and that's typically the point where there's either you just start doing that for fun, and then eventually you have this balled up wad of a car because you've been hit so many times, or you progress to the next level, which is putting a cage in it, going and doing competitions, traveling, because there's a little bit of competition here, but most of it's in Texas, Arkansas, other places. So I didn't really want to do that because I really like the car, and I didn't want to just wad it up, because that's truly what happens. You're gonna have huge dents. You're going to be replacing doors, fenders, all that stuff. So I was like, either I can just keep doing the grassroots thing and having fun and wasting a ton of money on tires, or I can go, and at the time I was doing a lot of sim racing, and I'm like, man, I really like this road course stuff. And I've been sim racing for 10+ years, and I was like, but I just never really got into the road course stuff. on any of my cars. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this thing. You know, I know Matt, you do it. You know, I was like, man, I'm really, and Chris, of course, you know, he's been doing it for a long time. So I was like, you know what, let's turn this thing to a road course car and see what it can do. And that's where we're at now. Took the handbrake off of it, put a brake, bias thing in the spot, and took some camber, a little bit of camber out as much as I could. It had about 8 degrees of camber in the front. Now I'm at like 4.5, and that's maxed out. I cannot take any without getting new lower arms. I can only get about 4.5. But yeah, put some sticky tires on all 4 sides, which is nice to not go to an event and have to swap tires every event. And then we did our first track day back in, might have been April. It's just a high-speed touring, and I had a lot of fun. Found a lot of issues with my own physical endurance as well. The car had a couple clutch issues, but other than that, I mean, the car, it just works. It really does.
It's got to be a riot to drive. I mean, this is basically a drift car on 200 treadwears. Yeah. But you're trying to road race it.
Yeah, and the thing I was surprised at, because it does have a welded diff, so which doesn't help me at all in the corners, and I thought I was going to be a lot more tail happy. Now I can tell you I'm not a fast road course racer yet, because I'm still trying to learn the courses. I'm still trying to learn some of that technique. But I did that the second session, or the second weekend I was getting really tail happy as I was kind of improving my time. But there's a lot of stuff in that car that needs to be refined, because drifting, stuff can be close, like you can, you got a little bit of toe in the back, it's fine. You have that bolt's loose, it's good, because you're only on track for like a minute, like nothing really bad can happen. You're not going that fast. You're going maybe 20 miles an hour, but your wheel speed's 100, but you're going 20, 25. So it's not that crazy if something breaks. But road course racing, it's a little different. I mean, I took the first corner at turn 1 at Hallett at 76 miles an hour. I calculated my RPM as I turned in, and I was like, wow, that's a lot faster than I felt like I was going. But yeah, no, the first weekend was pretty fun. I'm pretty sure I've talked to you about getting nauseous. I've always gotten nauseous on roller coasters. But I've always thought of it just being kind of like my mom. She gets nauseous as well, but I always just thought it was like a kind of a roller coaster-y thing. But in drifting, you only do it for like a minute, so it wasn't a big deal. But I was out there on a 20-minute session. I got about 15 minutes in. I'm like, man, I feel like crap. And it was and it just kept happening. So so that was an eye-opening thing for me to I need to kind of fatigue that out a little bit, get used to it a little bit more, and hopefully it just fixes itself.
Well, and I mean, you brought up a lot of good points on that, because you did chat with me about that, and I think vision was one of the things you brought up, right? Like when you're first out there and you don't know what you need to be looking for, and you've got tiny mirrors, and your head's moving all over the place. Like it takes you time to learn how to focus on the right things at the right time, and also just have massive mirrors. Like that's another obvious cheat, but yeah.
That was a huge tip for you that I think, and my father-in-law gave me. He because I mean, like, this was, when you're drifting, you're out there for a minute and a half maybe, so like temps and stuff like that, they really don't go too crazy. You're not looking at your oil pressure. You really don't have time, because you're looking out the driver window anyway, or the passenger window. You're not really even looking forward most of the time. So but when you're road race rate, there's you're full throttle for the whole straightaway. So I was, as a person who built the car myself and didn't truly trust it running for 20 minutes full, all out, I was looking at my gauges. I was looking at the mirror. I was also scared about the dude in the Corvette behind me. Yeah. Coming up on me. And I didn't know what, I didn't have the experience to know that, he's going to have to wait for me to tell him to pass. But in my head, I'm like, holy crap, this guy's coming up quick. I need to get out of his way. So I was looking to my mirrors a lot, and I had the stock mirror, and I had the tiny little M3 mirrors that you really can't see much. So I'm moving my head around, but also looking for the apex, and also trying to figure out what gear to go into, and also looking at the RPM and the coolant and all that kind of stuff. So that first one, it was kind of eye-opening on what I needed to do because everything went fantastic on the car. The car got to like 200 degrees after a 20-minute session, which was awesome. And which is, that's not even operating temperature on a 5.3. They run about 215, so it was, so I definitely had to learn something. In the second way, event I went to, it definitely helped just not worrying about that, just looking forward. I still got nauseous, but it wasn't as bad.
Sure.
Yep.
I want to back up just a second. Mulry, have you ever been to a drift event?
No.
Okay. Man, I'll tell you.
I've seen them on TV, but I've never been at one, I don't think.
Mark, that one we went to at OMC, that's the first time I've ever been to one, and that is silly fun. I mean, it is, but man, people are getting real silly.
Yeah, no, it's the groups are the people that go to drifting events are really cool. It's very similar to road racing, at least what I've experienced so far. Drag racing was different. That's one of the reasons I kind of stopped, because drag racing, it's always a competition, no matter what you're doing. Even if you're just going out there for fun, someone's always trying to beat you. And even if you're the fastest guy, there's always someone faster. So like when you're in the pits, something breaks, no one's there to help. No, there probably are groups that do that. But what I experienced is like, you were kind of on your own unless you had a big friend group out there. So, but going into drifting, like I would break an axle and there would be 10 guys with parts or tools to help. Similar to, Matt, horrible example for you, but like when you hit that wall, we were, it was like everybody just kind of tried to pick up tools, tried to help however we can. And that's kind of what I like about motorsports. It's not a single player game. It's a team sport. Even if they're not helping, if they're not even on your team, it's still a team sport.
No, that's a really good observation, and sad to know that's not the community in the drag racing scene, I guess. But
situationally, there's probably some, but what I experienced when you go to a track for like when there's money on the line or whatever, it just didn't seem like people would really drop much to come, because then they win.
Well, big shout out to you for showing up at that event that I was at, and unfortunately experiencing me just crashing my car immediately. But thanks so much for coming to help out and check it out. And I feel bad because I feel like I guided you into road racing and you didn't want to screw up your beautiful car, and then here I go, my first example of, hey, here's how you go road racing, and it's drive the car into another car and a tire barrier.
Yeah,
boring, but no, it's good to see everybody there.
Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please do.
So what transmission are you running behind that? And is it, I'm assuming you're running aluminum block LS?
Absolutely not. That is a iron block 5.3. That is the cheapest one you can get. No, and the iron blocks are actually, they're only like 100 more pounds. So, you can get a 5.3 iron block for $700-ish, or you can buy the all aluminum one that's like super rare, kind of in a specific truck, for like $1,500 or more. So it's really not worth the 100 pounds. But no, it's so I originally had a TKO road race in it. So the TKO 600RR. It was a great transmission. It had some downfalls though, because it was designed for like Jeeps back in like the 50s or something. I don't remember the backstory on those TKOs, but they originally, people had Muncie 4-speeds in those old Camaros and shit back in the pardon my French, back in the day. And people wanted overdrives, so the TKO Tremec came out with the 5-speed TKO, and it was a great transmission, and it was light. They were super light, but it didn't have the modern compliances that I needed in a drift car, because you're clutch kicking a lot, you're shifting a little bit. You couldn't shift high RPMs. Those things, like, I think I couldn't shift over 6,000 RPM. So if you tried to shift at 6,000, it would just feel like you hit a wall until the RPMs dropped a little bit, and then it would go into gear. And they fixed that in the TKX, that new transmission they came out with. You can shift that thing up to like 8,000 RPMs. But But yeah, it just wasn't there. It made a lot of weird noises. It didn't have the compliance that a modern T56 had. So I sold that and bought a T56 out of a GTO, which is like the best gear ratio T56 you can buy out of that generation F-body Camaro style car. Dude, this is a hilarious story. This guy was building donks on the south side.
Nice.
And he would buy GTOs and make them donks, but they don't run manuals in them. They would put automatic. So he would just get rid of the manual transmissions, and he sold it to me for like $1,500. And I was like, I'm buying it right there on the spot. So anyway, so I put that in, and that kind of solved a lot of my compliance issues of clutch kicking, and then keeping I had taken that TKO out like 20 times just to try to figure out how to make it shift better. It would kick out of gear a lot. The T56 is just so easy. You just bolt it in. There's no, I mean, you can measure things, but you don't need to. You just put it in and it figures itself out. But yeah, that's been one of the best parts, and it's a 6-speed, so you got double overdrive. So when you're cruising out, I mean, I think I cruised down the highway at like 1,500 RPMs, maybe. So it's quite nice. And then that was actually one of the big issues I had from the first session, or the first event I did to the second event. We had some clutch issues. I had this really trick drifting road race clutch in it, and it didn't do anything for me. It was really stiff. It was not really made for the T56. It was made for the TKO, but it worked for the T56. So between the two events I did, I actually swapped out a bone stock LS7's clutch, and it literally made that event, like it solved all my clutch issues, my transmission issues I had, which was fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Mallory, what other technical questions? Because this is something you desire to do. You will do this before the end of this decade.
You think so?
Put an LS and an E36. Yeah.
I would highly recommend it.
What other questions do you have?
Well, I mean, the reason that I think of doing it is just that we cut the cost of engine swaps after the first one, right? Because the first one's going to be an investment in a transmission and exhaust, and got to figure out, how to move the ABS from where it is, because then it's, the driver's side exhaust headers right there. So you got to figure out what you're going to do with the ABS pump, move all that around. Like, there's a lot of, I know we're not inventing anything, right? It's been done plenty of times, but we'd still have to do it, to our car the first time.
Yeah. And I would say, just to like 10 years ago when I started doing this, there weren't very many, I mean, there was a lot of stuff out there for it, but now that it's so popular, you could do it so cheap compared to the amount of times I've had to redo everything. The ABS thing, they have solutions for that. You literally extend it. It goes to right behind the headlight. And you just make the brake.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. They make an adapter that moves it up there. I just take mine out. I don't have any BMW left in the car wiring wise. Not one drop of BMW wiring. I made my own brake light wiring, everything. So I can't run ABS anyway. I still have the pump though, in case, but there's just so many really good recipes, like engine harnesses. I run a Holley Terminator X drop-in, and it tunes itself. I had it tuned, but it'll tune itself to an extent. And it adjusts, and it's literally the best bang for your buck. It was about $1,000 pre-COVID. Now it's $1,500 plus. But
yeah,
I mean,
but that's nothing for ECU.
No, and it does everything,
especially for a $500 car.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, truly, you can do it, and there's even better options now. Link ECU, it's very popular with drifting. I mean, obviously, you can go Motec or AEM. There's just so many options, and you have everything's drop-in. I mean, my motor mounts drop-in. My the exhaust that came with it drop-in. I think the only thing I had to have custom made was my drive shaft, and I had that made down on I-40 here in Oklahoma City. But like, I mean, what else? The radiator. So it's a chase-based tucked E36 radiator that pushes it really far forward, and it's a huge core. It never overheats. It's not even shrouded. It's got one big like 2500 CFM fan on it, and I ducted the front part of it so it gets good air. I mean, everything is just almost off the shelf. I mean, I truly haven't done very much modifications to make this work. You can do it pretty easily.
Yeah, and I'm guessing then the engine internals, when you've got to repair, assuming you don't hole a block, right? Like you said, pick up a set of Summit rods and pistons. I'm guessing that's like pocket change.
$250.
God.
Yep, and I have another set on my shelf just as a backup because I was like, I'm just gonna go buy 2 because I know it's gonna happen again. And I have a spare block sitting on my on a stand in my garage as well. I mean, and that's truly the reason I did it was for. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of BMW engines. They don't make enough power out of the factory. Obviously, road racing, they do everything you probably need. But for drifting, there's just so many variables with like the oil pump bolt coming off and only making 180 horsepower, and then Vanos braking. There's just so many variables. Chevy and Ford have figured out the small block. They've been doing it for 100 years, and they know how to do the damn thing now. And you can go to AutoZone and rebuild the damn thing. You can take it to Summit down in Austin or down in Dallas or Arlington, and they can rebuild it, or you can buy every part you need from there. And they're simple, single, it's overhead cam or overhead valve, whatever it is.
Overhead valve.
Super basic. I've built like 3 or 4 of them at this point, and they all last decent.
Yeah. One of the questions for us is because of the series we run in, right? It's an endurance series, and so you got to think about pit stops and how many pit stops you're going to take and what your fuel burn's going to be. Do you have any idea what your burn rate is on an LS versus
how can you make a fuel efficient one?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's ways to detune it. I don't think you would want to do. I mean, most of the times when you detune V8s, stuff breaks. I don't know what the mechanics and all the theories on that are, but I know the people that detune them, they end up breaking them. Usually I don't know if with timing and all that stuff, but usually you just give it less throttle. That's typically how they do detuning. They just make 100% throttle, 70% throttle, and then you make a little bit better. But no, I mean, you're not going to get gas mileage. I think I did 2 sessions at Hallett, 2 20-minute sessions, and I was out of gas on the 13 gallon tank. So you're sucking gas, and I have some pretty big injectors on it, which really doesn't make you have bad gas mileage, but there's a lot of potential to have more fuel. Obviously, I run 1000cc injectors in that car, and it runs like a bone stock car. Shout out Beachworks. But you're not gonna, and especially if you run E. I don't run ethanol on this car, but if you're gonna run E, you're gonna get garbage gas mileage. So endurance racing, I don't think you probably don't want to do an LS swap, but you can go faster than they can, so you're going to do more laps, and then you can just make it up in the pits.
Yeah, that's the tough part, right? It's hard to make up 3 or 4 minutes on a pit stop on track. But that said, you don't have to run an LS at 500 horsepower. And truthfully, in our competition at 500 horsepower, all we're gonna do is get penalty laps. Like we'd want to run it, with we could run it with a stock truck cam on it and probably make 280 horsepower or something. That'd be plenty fine. And then the question is what kind of mileage, what kind of burn we're getting on, if we could still get 2.5 hours out of a 24-gallon cell or not.
Yeah, and then there's always the 4.8. There's also a 4.8 liter. They're a little bit more rare to find, but there is a 4.8 liter LS that you can Gen 3. But I mean, it would be hard to make that thing really get decent gas mileage.
Maybe we could put a hybrid in it, Matt.
There you go. I mean,
or what about the LFX, like the V6 version of the LS?
So those are definitely coming back. You also get the 3600 out of the. I know they made them for the trucks, but they also made them for like the Grand Marquis or the Grand Pontiac Grand Prix and shit.
Yeah.
Those are great engines. So you want to hear a new engine swap that's kind of getting popular in the drifting world is that I think it's a 4.2 liter inline six out of the Tahoe or the Chevy S. No, what is it? The the little like the mid SUV that
like a Trailblazer.
Trailblazer, yes. So they have a 4.2 liter inline six, and people are putting it in cars now, putting a T56 behind it, putting a big turbo. It's the American 2JZ. We finally have one.
Oh, that's funny.
It's a great little engine. It looks almost identical. It's just a little taller, has a bigger cylinder head. But and I mean that's a good way to get good gas mileage, but you're just not going to make the torque that these V8 that an LS makes. I mean,
that's certainly true. Yeah.
I had it dynoed by a buddy down in Moore, and it made 350 horsepower and 300 foot-pounds of torque from 3,000 RPMs to 6,500. I mean, and it shoots up and is flat all the way to 6,500. You're just not going to make the torque on a six-cylinder.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet we could get some lap time out of that one, Maury.
I'm sure we could.
Because that's what we need is to be more cheaty. That seems to be our problem is we're not cheaty enough.
Right. Yeah. If we could, I mean, the other benefit of the LS would conceivably be to get it more reliable, because that's been the biggest problem we've had with our BMW engines is we just haven't had a great streak of reliability recently. Although the engine that was in there was really good until the head gasket went on it.
Until it wasn't.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of what I like about the LS too is they run really hot. You know, operating temperature on a Silverado truck is about 215 to 220.
Mm-hmm.
And they really don't. You're overheating when you get to like 230, 240. But you usually if you're not beating on it when it's that hot, you won't really hurt it. I mean, you look at NASCAR and those guys are running 260, 270 sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're making 500, 600, 700 horsepower all day long. And those are small block Chevys. Obviously, those are $250,000 Chevys, but but they're still the platform is still similar. You know, the architecture's there. I don't know why they run so hot and how you can just all day long, but if you can
because they're running pressurized coolant systems on those.
Gotcha. But man,
so
I mean,
it's still not boiling when you're getting it up to 260 or 270 because they're running pressure on it.
Yeah.
But even on an LS, you can still run those suckers hot, and they just laugh right back at you. Yeah.
Well, this has been great news. I still feel confused, Maury. I don't know if we need maybe some sort of simple inline six. I don't know what we need to do.
I think the answer is a turbo K swap.
There you go.
Turbo K. Here we go.
I've heard these stories about how the wonder of the Honda K series engine from people such as my intrepid co-host on this podcast, and I'm so curious.
I'll tell you another rabbit hole I've been going down, and this really simplifies the situation. But a Stroker K series gets you like 2.6K with like 14.5 to 1 compression. That's easily 300 horsepower. So, just saying, like, there's ways to make power without adding spinny bits.
Yeah, that just sounds like a lot of cylinder temperature.
Yeah, there's that too. 12.5 is more reasonable. But anyway, but the Stroker nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, at 14, you probably don't even need a spark plug anymore, right? You just let it diesel.
Yeah.
No, that does require the E85s, which doesn't make any sense for endurance racing.
Right.
Yada, yada. Gentlemen, we have achieved a full length,
we have,
episode here. So there's so much going on. Like, there's a lot more to discuss, but I think we need to wrap it. So I don't know, Maury. You got any sponsors you need to reach out to, or
I don't have
people?
any sponsors, but I will.
What's happening next?
I will give Eric Strawn a big shout out for hauling down here from OKC and helping me get that engine out of the car. It was warm last weekend, although we've actually had a less warm summer than most in Dallas. But it was thank you, Eric, again for coming down and helping out to do that. It is very appreciated.
Yeah. Mark, are you familiar with the term AHOD? All hands on deck. AHOD.
I'm not.
Yeah. So that's been a common term of ours. I don't know. Is that a thing we invented, or is that a military thing? I don't know, Maury.
I don't know.
We call it all hands on deck, but sometimes only one person shows up, and then it's a 4HOD, and that's what happens. So thank you.
Or this weekend was an EHOD, was what I was calling it, because it was Eric's hands on deck.
Eric's hands on deck. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So thank you, Eric, and I can't wait to. I really want to go autocross his Miata. That looks pretty fresh.
Yeah, I think he's going to put a rollover bar in it. I think when he was down here, he was talking about which one he was going to order to put in there for autocross.
That'll just make it slower. You mean like an anti-roll bar, or like a?
No, I mean like a not crush your neck. Yeah.
Boring.
Roll bar.
Don't do that, Eric. Buy better tires. Anyway, okay. All right. Mark, do you have any sponsors, shout outs, anybody you'd like to thank for your racing career, and or what's happening next? What else is happening?
I mean, always got to shout out Deechworks. They're the homies. They have drop-in solutions for every vehicle you can think of, from K-swap Miatas to LS swap BMWs, and even BMWs with real BMW engines at them, if they can stay running.
We do all those things, by the way. Huge fan of the product. Thank you.
Yeah, no, they're really great. They're based out here, Oklahoma City. Great people, great family that runs it. So. But yeah, no, next, after that last event, I just put it on jack stands. I haven't touched it, but we will be out on I think it's October 10th, for high speed touring again, just to shake it down. I got the big 9 Lives Racing wing and splitter on the car, and I really want to see if I can push out something in the 120s. I hit a 130.1, and I really am real close to that 129. So I think we'll do it this time around. So just look out for a really fun video of me hopefully breaking my personal best there.
Another member of the Wang gang.
Oh yeah.
Wang gang. Yeah. Let's double click on that. So you were having trouble, you were in like the 35s or something, and then all of a sudden, and I feel like we were texting back and forth, and I was like, you can do better than this. Like what was it? Like, was there something in particular that like you all of a sudden you found 5 seconds?
I was at the 138s earlier in the day, and I thought I was just moving. No, the instructor, I'm missing. I forgot his name already, but he just gave me a lot of confidence. Helped me with some turn in. I think turn in was my big issue. I was turning in way too early, and I missed the apex every time. It's such a strange track being late apex on every turn, and I was turning way too early, not tracking out all the way either. I would turn and end up mid corner or mid straightaway on 6 and turn 1 and 10 was really difficult for me, and he just would really he hounded me every time. I would miss it, and like a Miata would be in front of me, and he'd be like, he beat you on that corner, and you make double the horsepower. So it just really started clicking. The turn in was clicking, and then also the wing, dude, the splitter in the wing, I mean, it gives you so much confidence. It was crazy the amount of momentum I could carry into a turn and then also through the turn, that it just gives you so much confidence. And the pictures you saw, I mean, I was lifting a wheel in the front, and I don't think the car was going to roll over. It was squatting so much in the back right corner on turn 6 and 5 that I just couldn't. I mean, it was ridiculous how much speed I was carrying. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got this. You're in the 20s next time easily. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It is interesting with the aero. You have to go full send to like make that work, and then
just
have that confidence. But yeah, it does it.
And this is an uncaged chassis?
This is a uncaged chassis. I went. Yeah, Matt kind of reeled me in a little bit. He's like, "Don't put a cage in it just yet." And I was like, "Well, I already ordered the splitter and wing." So, yeah,
We'll give it a shot.
yeah, it works.
I wasn't trying to add like barriers to success,
Yeah.
Yeah, no question. No question.
Yeah, perfection is the enemy of progress.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, that's awesome, Mark. Well, thank you so much for your time on the pod tonight. Pat, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you so much for hosting us.
Oh, well,
Yeah, thanks for the invite. This has been awesome. So
yeah, it's been fun. We'll do it
Absolutely.
again. I think, Mark, I'm going to be at the track same weekend as you, hopefully MSR Crescent at the NASA event.
Awesome.
And going to go take the K Miata out there. Maybe I'll talk Pat into coming to hang out. We don't know. But either way, big shout out to, I don't know, y'all and racershq.com and the new Andretti track in Oklahoma City. Like, that's been a lot of fun. I need to hone my skills. But it's humbling. It's good. And big shout out to the Harbor Freight 10-ton Porta Jack for putting my car back into the shape of a car. But that's all I have tonight. Check us out on all your podcasting platforms, iTunes, whatever, Discord. You know how it works. racershq.com, Instagram, and we will see you at the track. Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
Dave.